This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Good afternoon. Let's do some business. In fact, we're doing it live right here, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons. We get right down to business with the news-driven hour right after Ben Shapiro and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all of your favorite podcast platforms. Big news this hour. President-elect Trump has selected hedge fund manager Scott Bessent to lead the U.S. Treasury Department, elevating one of the finance world's most vocal supporters of the president-elect to a crucial position. Bessent in recent months had become a key economic advisor to President Trump and his economic team. Bitcoin edging closer to $100,000, hovering at around $99K here at the moment. Stocks finishing higher today. All three of the major averages did rebound this week ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday week ahead. The Dow coming in for a closing gain of 426 points to a record high. We're at 44,297. The S&P 500 popped 21 points at 5,969. And the NASDAQ ended with a closing gain of 31 points, settling at 19,004. Super microcomputer investors got some relief this week as the server maker said it has a new auditor and submitted plans to the NASDAQ for how it intends to get current with filing requirements. Looks like that stock saw a nice rebound today on the order of about $34 to $33 and change. Gold has sparkled this week, up more than 5% for the week, outperforming stocks this week. Gold closing at more than $43 today at $2,718 an ounce. We're, of course, following the latest developments overseas. I'll discuss the Middle East later this hour with Middle East expert Dan RAVIV, former network news correspondent, author of books about the Israeli intelligence service, including his latest, Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. It's the holiday season, the season of giving. That begins with Thanksgiving. And today, the Union Rescue Mission in downtown Los Angeles began preparing the meals for the annual Thanksgiving feast set for this weekend. I'll talk about what's happening on Skid Row and how you can help with the Union Rescue Mission's Just Help One campaign. I'll be joined live later this hour by Richard NEWCOMB, the Vice President of Philanthropy at the Union Rescue Mission. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, what's happening here in Los Angeles to kick off the holiday season. Joining us live now, I'm elated to say we have Los Angeles business and civic leader and philanthropist Rick Caruso, the founder of CARUSO, developer of the most popular shopping destinations here in Southern California, of course, including the Grove, Americana brand, Coms at Calabasas, Palisades Village, and the list goes on. Former L.A. mayoral candidate as well. Rick Caruso, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Frank, it's good to hear your voice. Happy Thanksgiving. How are you?
Wonderful to speak with you again. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your wonderful family and your entire team there at CARUSO. I know you have a big kickoff to the holiday season coming up next week. So this is our annual conversation here. Take it from the top and kick off the holiday season for us.
Well, we have our big tree lighting at the Grove on Monday night, and that's one of the great community events in Los Angeles now. It's been going on for over 20 years, and we have a terrific show. And that starts at 7 o'clock. So we welcome everybody to come over and watch the show and the lighting of the tree. And Santa is going to show up, from what I understand, for all the kids. And we also have great fireworks. And then we have another great show out in Pacific Palisades on the 7th. And in fact, tonight we're going to be lighting a tree and have a show out at the Promenade at Westlake that starts at 7:30. So, and of course, everything is lit and decorated out at the Americana brand. So we're spending a lot of time bringing in the Christmas season, but as a company, as a family, we just love that. And we hope everybody just comes to the property and takes in the beauty of Christmas and the joy of Christmas.
That is really wonderful, and it looks like Santa's helpers are ready to spring into action this year, certainly with the stock market at record highs here. Business animal spirits seem to be at record highs as well. Give us your view of business these days.
Well, you're right. You know, business is very strong, but we were strong coming into the election. We're strong going past the election. As you know, the retail sales increased in October They surpassed expectations. The September retail sales were revised upward, and consumer confidence is very strong. And we're seeing that on our properties, that we've got our foot traffic on our properties continues to grow at a very strong rate, and our retail revenue and NOI on our properties is growing at double digits. So it's a really remarkable growth. We're tracking to have our best year ever. I think the holiday season, ICSC and everybody is reporting growth of 3 to 3.5%, which is huge. But they're also reporting that there's going to be 6 million more people this year that have said they're going to shopping centers and physical stores for their holiday season. So obviously I love that statistic, and we'll see how that plays out. But we have 5 less days between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we all need to get out there and get our shopping started sooner. And what we're seeing in our properties is people are already doing that. So that's good for the economy of Los Angeles, and that's good for the economy of the country. And we're going to certainly lean into it and make sure that the experience on every one of our properties is joyous and reflects the holiday that we're all celebrating.
That's wonderful, and it looks like Hanukkah coinciding with Christmas this year as well. We have the Christmaka, as they call it, phenomenon again this year, and I know you do a great job celebrating Hanukkah as well on the property. So we have, a week less than usual, given the fact that Thanksgiving and Christmas are so close together, but it looks like you're going to be getting off to a great start coming up in the week ahead.
Well, you're right, Frank, and listen, as a family and a company, we have a rule that we like celebrating all the holidays, and we like celebrating everything we can. We believe that life should be celebrated, and we love celebrating Hanukkah. So at the Grove, at the Palisades, at the Commons at Calabasas, we put on a big Hanukkah celebration out at the Americana at Brand. And it's just great, because what you want to do is celebrate everybody's religion and faith and background and diversity, and everybody coming onto the properties together and just celebrating the beauty of just the holiday season. And I think in Los Angeles, we have a lot to be thankful for. I know we do as a family, and we're grateful to be a part of this great city.
I want to get your reaction to the news that Nathan Hochman will be the new DA here. I know you supported Nathan Hochman. We talked about it live on the air. He's been on this program, in fact, before and after the election. We have a new police chief here in Los Angeles, too. You, of course, headed up the police commission. We have the new chief, Jim McDonald, the former sheriff of L.A. County. Give us your reaction to how things are shaping up here on public safety.
Well, we have 3 big news items to be thankful for this holiday. One is Nathan Hochman winning. And yes, I leaned in heavily because we have to change, Frank, the trajectory of the city. The city is sinking in crime, and we're sinking in homelessness. Our leadership has failed us on this. Now, Nathan isn't going to be able to solve all of it, but he's going to be a breath of fresh air and a huge change in making sure that serial criminals that are making us unsafe, feel unsafe, and are unsafe are going to be held accountable. So that's great. And he had a big win. And, the policies of George Gascon were clearly rejected. I think he had 60% of the vote. Prop 36, winning in California. Huge win. Rolling back some of the maybe well-meaning but terrible results of Prop 47. So that's a big win for the state of California and our region. And then the third, Jimmy McDonald being the chief. He's a great guy. He's a good cop. He's a good man. He understands how to police. He understands how to get crime back down. And I think he's going to be terrific. I worked with him very closely when I was a police commissioner. Actually promoted him at LAPD, and he and Bill Bratton really worked as a team. But he's got great experience. He was at Long Beach as the chief, and he was LA County as the sheriff. He was LA City as a deputy chief. Amazing amount of experience. Very talented, very smart. He's got to be one of the best cops in the country, and I'm glad we have him as our chief. So that's all 3 good news items. On
the air live with the one and only Rick Caruso, and certainly I attend a lot of business events, and I have to say, almost unanimously, people hope you run again for something here, and appreciate your and are very grateful and thankful for your leadership by example here in Los Angeles, and appreciate your philanthropy as well. I know on Skid Row you're very active with Para Los Niños, and also have supported the Union Rescue Mission. The homeless story came up again this week, and at or near record highs, and a lot of concern about how the money is being spent. Certainly, other groups do better than others with the money that is raised. What are your thoughts about the homeless issue at this time?
Well, the homeless issue continues to get worse. We continue to have people living and dying on the streets. We're seeing more and more families on the streets. I mean, it's horrific what is happening, and our leadership is just failing. I mean, just drive around the city. If you want to ask how our leadership is doing, drive around the city. And the people that are on the streets deserve a better quality of life, and they deserve to be in a home, and they deserve to have the care they need for mental health care and for drug addiction. I was down with my daughter yesterday, lunch at Langer's across from MacArthur Park. It's horrifying to see what's happening. People are passed out on the streets. We've got paramedics trying to save people's lives. And this is all over the city. This just isn't in one particular area. So it's terrible. And now the report comes out from the city controller that half of the money allocated to help the homeless wasn't even spent. So we have a terrible mismanagement problem in City Hall, including at the mayor's office. And there's clear incompetency on what's going on. And I know people are frustrated. I'm frustrated. Everybody I talk to is frustrated. And we've got growing property crimes in the city. And we've got a drug problem on the streets. And, all of this can get changed, and it can be fixed. But it's not going to be fixed unless we have the right leadership to do it. So we've got a good start with Nathan, and we got to give him a lot of support. But we've got to elect officials that actually have the courage, the backbone, the intellect, the will, and the competency to turn our great city around, because we are heading in the wrong direction.
Thank you for mentioning Norm Langer, who's been on this program as well. Is he going to be able to stay at that location?
Boy, I hope so, Frank. But yesterday, being in that neighborhood, there's so many illegal street vendors and homeless encampments. They're blocking blocks and blocks of retail stores and restaurants. You can't even get to the front door. I mean, it's insanity what's happening down there. Everybody should go drive down there and take a look at it. And then ask yourself, is this the way you want your city run? Is this the way people should live? Is this the way small businesses can survive? They can't survive this way. And that's why you've got so many businesses closing their doors in the city of Los Angeles. And downtown is the same way. We're heading to a 40% vacancy rate in downtown office buildings, which has a direct impact to all the small businesses downtown that are dependent on that daytime population supporting them. The florists, the dry cleaners, the restaurants, everybody. And none of that should be happening. But it is happening because we don't have anybody coming to the rescue to change it from City Hall. At some point, it's got to change. And I was glad to see what happened in San Francisco. You had a mayor up there that failed and lost the re-election. And I think what we're seeing across the state is people are tired of people living and dying in the streets. They want people to have a better life, and they want their communities to be safe. Not only to be safe, but to feel safe. And I think we're definitely turning a corner on that.
We're on the air live with Rick Caruso, and on the flip side, we're going into the holiday season with the markets, as I mentioned, at record highs, and everybody's talking about Bitcoin. Are we going to see more Bitcoin ATMs on any of your properties anytime soon?
I don't know about that, Frank. Listen, the market is doing extremely well. As you said, Bitcoin almost hit 100,000, whatnot. And I think that's great. And not to be a downer, but, the average person doesn't feel that. So what they're still feeling is inflation, the high cost of food, the high cost of rent, all of those kind of things. So I would just say, and I know we were down yesterday, down in Watts, me and Tina and every one of the kids, And every year we go down there. We're very involved, as you know, in South LA and Watts all year long. But during Thanksgiving, we're passed out almost 500 turkey dinners. And there's people that really need help in our city. So I would encourage everybody to lean in on some kind of charity that is serving those that are really at or below the poverty line this holiday. And they're so grateful, so appreciative for just the little things, because there's so much that they need. And it would make a big difference. And that is just a great gift that comes back to me and Tina and our kids being a part of that community.
That's so wonderful. Well, thank you for saying that, and thank you for your support of Union Rescue Mission, by the way, which love to have you on the Amazing Stories from Skid Row program on at some point to talk about what's happening there and all the great things happening. They have a new CEO there, by the way, Mark Hood, who'd love to connect with you, and Richard NEWCOMB is going to be on this program later this hour. So thank you very much for spotlighting what's happening there on Skid Row, which people think is just one street, but it's actually about 60 blocks of the downtown Los Angeles area. So we have certainly a lot to talk about. And anytime you're ready for any big announcements, Rick Caruso, we have an open line to you.
Frank, I appreciate it, pal. You know what? You're my number one guy, and you are a blessing to this city, and the voice that you have that puts a light on all the good things and all the troubling things makes a huge difference. So we're very grateful for you. That's for sure. And Union Rescue Mission does an amazing job. Everybody should, write a check to Union Rescue Mission, because they are turning lives around and saving lives every single day. It's incredible what they do.
God bless you, Rick. Thank you very much for joining us live here. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and a wonderful holiday season to all who enjoy your beautiful places. Thank you very much, Rick Caruso, for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank. Thanksgiving is a great holiday. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone in L.A.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Rick Caruso, live with us here on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. Mottek here. Did you know that for more than 10,000 years, gold has been the greatest store of value and considered a safe haven asset to preserve your wealth? Now, with the U.S. debt at more than $35 trillion and climbing, not to mention the Biden administration still getting us involved in costly wars, developing the digital dollar, central bank digital currency, and inflation still spiraling, it's more critical now than ever before to safeguard your assets like your cash savings and retirement accounts with physical gold. Opening a gold IRA is one of the best ways to secure your wealth and create a stable financial future. Stop worrying about your retirement and the markets and cash savings in the bank. Feel confident, prepared, and in control with physical gold and, yes, silver. Give Joe Morgan a call now at 1-800-753-8534. Mention Frank Mottek, and you could get $1,000 worth of silver with a qualifying purchase. Call now, 1-800-753-8534, or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. 790 KBC welcomes. Want to take a guess? The one and only Stevie Wonder coming to the Crypto.com Arena December 14th. Tickets now on sale at AXS.com. Right now, caller 9 wins at 1-888-795-2222. You can get a pair of tickets to the show if you are caller number 9. Call right now, 1-888-795-2222. Tickets furnished by Golden Voice. Winning day for the stock market, a winning week, too. Bouncing back from the washout we saw the previous week, the post-election rally is back on. The Dow 426 points today at 44,297. Yep, that's an all-time high. The S&P 500 of 21 at 5,969. And the NASDAQ of 31 points at 19,004. The volatility index today, the VIX index, pulling back about 2%. Gold on the rise again today. Gold moving up by $43.30 an ounce at $2,718.20 an ounce. Let's bring up the latest on the price of silver. It has also moved up today 47 cents at $31.85 an ounce. Oil also getting a pop today on nervous times around the world. Oil up $1.09 at $71.19 a barrel. Shares of Boeing getting a lift today for a change of nearly $6 at $149 and change. The magnificent one, NVIDIA, taking a hit today, down nearly $5 at $141.95. Lockheed Martin closing higher today by 21 cents at $542 and change. Looks like Lockheed Martin's been awarded a big government contract in support of the F-35 program. An announcement coming today from the Defense Department, an award of nearly $870 million. The contract calls for procurement of materials, parts, components, and associated support. Work will be performed at a number of locations, including El Segundo, right here in Southern California, as well as in Fort Worth, Texas, as well as overseas. Taking a look at the Sun Micro computer shares, moving higher today by more than $3 at $33.15. Intuit taking a hit today on a weaker outlook, down nearly $39 at the close to $640.12 a share. And now let's talk about Bitcoin. What a week for Bitcoin and the cryptos overall. We did see Bitcoin today get close to $100,000. Let's bring up the latest here right now. Bitcoin at the moment at $98,991, pulling back $300 here at last check. Ethereum up 30. It too has rebounded this week at $3,350 per Ethereum coin. And the Dogecoin price, let's bring that one up too, moving higher today to 41 cents. And now the latest news for you right here on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here on 790 KABC. Nervous times around the world. War between Russia and Ukraine heated up this week. Ukraine fired at Russia this week with missiles made in the U.S., U.K., and France. Russia struck a Ukrainian city with a new medium-range ballistic missile that carried multiple warheads. In the Middle East, Israelis have united behind their prime minister as Benjamin Netanyahu faced an international arrest warrant. The Israeli prime minister condemning the arrest warrant from the ICC as anti-Semitic. In the meantime, it's been 412 days since Hamas terrorists abducted innocent civilians during the October 7th attack. In Israel, there's still more than 100 being held hostage, including 7 Americans. All of this following the October 7th attack on Israel, which started the war between Hamas and Israel. Joining us live now, Middle East expert Dan RAVIV, former network news correspondent, a former colleague at that network, also author of books about the Israeli intelligence service, including his latest, Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. I know, Dan, you keep track of everything that's happening there. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for joining us live this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. In addition to the wars, as you reported, Frank, there's that new issue that the Prime Minister of Israel and the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, whom he recently fired, are now, well, there are arrest warrants for them. It means literally that Benjamin Netanyahu and Mr. Yoav Gallant, if they travel to several dozen countries that are members of the International Criminal Court, they'd be subject to immediate arrest. Perhaps you heard that even Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada said that Canada would respect the court decision, which means the leader of Israel can't even visit Canada. And Britain indicated that, and countries in Europe. It's quite humiliating. It's quite a blow. And obviously Netanyahu is angry, and as you said, he calls it anti-Semitic.
President Biden also condemning this, President Trump as well, and with the change of administration coming up here soon, what impact do you think this outrage will have? We saw the Prime Minister of Israel condemn it in a video statement, saying it was like the Dreyfus trials in France, and maybe you could give us some insight into what he was talking about there, what happened back many years ago, and how he compared what's happening to him to that.
As you say, going back more than a century, in which a Jew in the French army was wrongly accused of treasonous acts and was put on trial. And that's always been considered, the so-called Dreyfus affair has been considered just the model of European anti-Semitism, which most European countries in the past decade, since World War II, said they would never repeat. Now, I have to say, however, there's this kind of thin line, and we hear it also from protesters on American campuses, between being opposed to Israel, opposed to how Israel is conducting the war in Gaza, which was launched, of course, after the horrible attacks of October 7th last year, but that thin line between that, objecting to Israel, and objecting to Jews. Now, the argument made by many Jewish organizations, President Biden apparently agrees with what I'm about to say, is that if you single out Israel, the only Jewish state on earth, for criticism, for punishment, for protest, and you have kind of a double standard, and you don't condemn anyone else for similar acts, then you're being anti-Semitic. You're singling out the only Jewish country. So it's a very sensitive issue, but I have to say the bottom line effect, even with the sympathy from President Biden and from the next president, Donald Trump, is that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to have trouble being, a living symbol of Israel and its strength. This is a blow to Israel. They will still conduct this war against Iran's proxies in Lebanon, that would be Hezbollah, against Iran where necessary, and of course trying to finish off Hamas in Gaza. But that war has been going on for now more than 13 months. There's a lot of sense of frustration, even in Israel and among American friends of Israel.
On the air live with a familiar voice to radio listeners, Dan RAVIV, Middle East expert, former network news correspondent, and author of books about the Israeli intelligence service, including the latest book, Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. And certainly there is more back and forth, more attacks on Israel with rockets, and Israel retaliating in various places, fighting, a six-front war at this point. Can you give us an update on what's happening at the moment?
Yeah, sure. This week, I have to say, the war was really continuing in Lebanon against Hezbollah, which is clearly an Iranian proxy, even as an American diplomat, Amos Hochstein, was traveling in Beirut, Lebanon, and in Jerusalem, Israel, trying to negotiate a deal to end that part of the war. And he seemed to be making progress. There's pressure from a lot of politicians in Lebanon, pressure on Hezbollah to cut it out, to stop it. A lot of destruction being caused in Lebanon. So maybe that part will end in a few days. On the other hand, there also was a lot of Israeli military action, including some troops killed in Gaza, but also many Gaza civilians and Hamas fighters were killed. So there's no sign of it really letting up, not much progress. And what's going on in the Middle East is everyone is wondering, will Donald Trump take a different approach toward all that? He's thought of as being pro-Israel, but he's also committed to ending the war between Gaza and Israel. So we're wondering, I think the Gaza war is going to go on almost for sure to Inauguration Day, January 20th, but will Trump come up with something rapidly, maybe with the help of his friends in Saudi Arabia?
President Trump has selected Congresswoman Elise Stefanik to be the UN ambassador to the U.S., and she has done an amazing job of highlighting the fact that hostages are still being held after, 412 days at last count. She will be the new UN ambassador there, very pro-Israel, of course. What else do you see ahead under the Trump administration as it relates to the Middle East?
Yeah, I think you've got to know that Israel, which sees itself as a very strong ally of the United States, is hoping that the Trump administration will be simply more pro-Israel, not putting any restrictions on Israel's ability to use weapons. But I'm not sure that'll happen, even though Donald Trump is definitely appointing people who say they are pro-Israel. Again, that commitment to try to end the war, I think that could produce some fresh thinking. And most Americans might feel pretty good about it. For instance, if Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries would agree to help administer the Gaza Strip, if a deal could be made in which the 101 people who are being held since the Hamas invasion of last year would be released, the war could stop. It could be quite incredible. We could turn the page. Now, I'm probably being too optimistic. And Frank, you and I have known each other now on the Middle East front, for more than 30 years, I think.
Yep.
And you could accuse me of being overly optimistic, but what else can we be? Because things have been very dark and very difficult for most of the people in the region, certainly in the past 13 months.
It's been a head-spinning year this year with the unthinkable happening, Israel coming under direct attack from Iran. Israel retaliated. And what do we need to know about that most recent raid? Did, in fact, the Iranian nuclear facilities get hit in any way?
Yeah, last time we spoke, we were saying that we expected Iran to hit Israel again with long-range ballistic missiles, but Iran hasn't done it. And diplomatic sources say Iran has informed the incoming Trump administration that Iran wants to hold off. Now, that could in part be because the Israeli airstrike against Iran, now about a month ago, was more effective than we knew. Word is just leaking out in recent days that Israel hit a secret nuclear facility in Iran that was building parts for what could be nuclear bombs. So the Israelis have been very effective with their airstrikes. Is that enough to make the Iranians stop? Or will they decide just to fight through Hezbollah of Lebanon, to arm more terrorist groups, right? We'll have to see. Again, I can be optimistic for next year, but right now, as you know, a lot more violence is expected.
Israel is certainly known for its amazing technology and is one of the leaders in the world of high tech, and certainly the Israeli intelligence service has benefited from that great expertise this year. Dan Raviv, anything further on that amazing intelligence victory that involved those pagers and cell phones? Did we learn anything more about how they ended up exploding in the hands of terrorists?
Oh, it was the kind of mission that I've written about in my books with my Israeli co-author Yossi Melman, in which the Mossad set up bogus companies in Europe and in the Far East and managed to actually sell the phones and pagers to the Hezbollah group of Lebanon. That's right. They were sold, in fact, by an Israeli front company with little explosives hidden in each of the devices, which the Israelis, set off one day. I mean, that's great, and it's what's considered, a tactical attack on terrorists, but again, is it the strategic answer? Because when it really came down to a moment, October 7th of last year, when Israeli intelligence had some signs that Hamas in Gaza was planning to do something unusual and cross the border, the Israelis didn't believe their own intelligence. A little bit like Pearl Harbor and the U.S. intelligence failure of December 1941. So, intelligence, you have to use it wisely. You have to believe the information you have. A lot of trouble there. So Israel has technology. Israel has a lot of intelligence. We've written about that. But if you don't use it wisely, and it's something true about the United States in keeping an eye on China and an eye on Russia, we have to have the best intelligence, but also be very clear-eyed in analyzing what it is that we've managed to pick up.
Dan Raviv, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon, and we'll keep an open line to you on all these important developments in the Middle East. That is Dan Raviv, Middle East expert, former network news correspondent, author of books about the Israeli intelligence service, including the latest one, Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. You can also follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, Dan Raviv. Dan Raviv, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Always a pleasure, Frank.
Thanks again. And right out to the freeways now, 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC. Today, the Union Rescue Mission in downtown Los Angeles began preparing the meals for the annual Thanksgiving feast set for this weekend. The effective work of the Union Rescue Mission, something we talk about on the Amazing Stories from Skid Row show here on 790 KABC, which airs on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m., and we also talk about what's happening on Skid Row and how you can help with the Union Rescue Mission's Just Help One campaign, which was announced recently and got started with the Over the Edge event, in which yours truly and others rappelled off the top of the Universal Hilton Hotel, a 25-story hotel, to raise money for the Union Rescue Mission and to kick off the Just Help One campaign for Union Rescue Mission, the number one organization helping the homeless here in Los Angeles. Joining us live now is Richard NEWCOMB, the Vice President of Philanthropy at the Union Rescue Mission. Richard, thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank. Thrilled to be with you.
Wonderful to have you with us here. A big day there on Skid Row for Thanksgiving. Tell us what's happening there.
Well, we've been frying turkeys since about 7 a.m. this morning. Our new CEO, Mark Hood, put the first one in. He's from Alabama. He's had about 15 years of experience frying turkeys, so he was a natural. Actually, he was mentoring and coaching our volunteers today because he's done it so many times. But we're fried about 300. I think we're wrapping up down there as the sun's setting here, and we're baking many more in some new ovens thanks to some blessed donations from a few donors that helped us buy some new ovens. The ones we had before were like 14 years old, and so I think it was totally 500 turkeys for about 2,500 people we're expecting tomorrow. And a grand celebration. We have a dining room that handles about 1,300 people per day, And we're decorating them with drapes and chandeliers and round tables and table service with lots of volunteers to make it a really like a nice quality restaurant meal. It's not a cafeteria with your box to go. It's really, we appreciate you, and we want these folks that are experiencing homelessness to have a great experience.
That is truly wonderful and done with so much love. I was there today to see it for myself, and just really, really wonderful. And what you're doing there, Richard NEWCOMB, and as Rick Caruso said, everyone should support Union Rescue Mission. He was on the show here earlier. Let me ask you about that, the Just Help One campaign, and how people can get involved and help and provide shelter and meals for the people there.
Well, thanks for asking, Frank. We launched that campaign around the 1st of September, and we came up with that idea because it's hard to reach people. A lot of people don't know what we're doing down here. People are tired of the homeless situation. They're tired of seeing people on the streets. They're tired of seeing money spent by the government not be used wisely and not be effective. And we don't want folks to give up the fight. You know, there's 17 million human beings in the 5-county Los Angeles metropolitan area, and there's 72,000 in LA County experiencing homelessness and 92,000 in the 5 counties. And don't give up the fight. You know, if each one of us stepped up, whether it was $30 a month or whatever, if there's 17 million of us, we can make a difference. So we're asking people to rally around Union Rescue Mission. We've been around for 133 years, founded in 1891. We are the largest privately funded homeless shelter in the country. We get zero government support at this point. We are talking to the mayor. We are hoping to make some progress there. But we haven't accepted government funds because currently under the current model, you take funds from the government, you have to operate under the harm reduction model. That means people are allowed to use drugs and alcohol in your facility, and we don't embrace that policy. We had 1,300 people under roof last night. And of that, 900 of them are moms with dads and kids. So what kind of environment would it be if drugs and alcohol flowed freely? So our programs are working. We have super success rates. 86 cents of every dollar is going to help people. That's what Just Help One is about. Stay the course and learn about Union Rescue Mission. Walk with us. We're very efficient, very effective. We get a perfect 100 rating from Charity Navigator. You can trust us. Your money is going to be well spent, and it will change lives. We have amazing stories of life transformation. People can go to our website, urm.org, and check out and see some of these vignettes and stories about people that were living on the streets, people that have come into our facility, and then total life transformation. We have one lady, Jennifer. She is addicted to drugs, came through Hope Gardens, graduated that program, and she's now building bulletproof windows for F-35 fighter jets. We just have some really great outcomes. We just hope the city will rally around us, the citizenry of Los Angeles, Southern California, and help us do more. We have great ambition to do more and expand our facilities to get more people off the street and onto a self-sustaining life.
And at this time of Thanksgiving, certainly it should be noted that we're all grateful that the financial markets have held up as impressively as they have, and people at this season of giving hopefully will be more generous with Bitcoin at record highs here, the stock market at record highs. Any quick message to the business community out there?
Well, you know, we have significant donors that give stock donations, so it's a great way if you have appreciated assets. The S&P 500 is up significantly. Bitcoin, I'm a big fan of that myself, and it is up hugely in the last 30 days. So, sure, that it would be a great way to contribute to us, and it helps the donor with their tax situation, and it's really going to a good cause.
Richard, thank you very much for joining us live here. And for more information, go to urm.org. That is Richard NEWCOMB, the Vice President of Philanthropy at the Union Rescue Mission. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone there and throughout Los Angeles. I'll be back with more at 4 Monday afternoon. Stay tuned now for the 790 KABC News Blitz with Randy Wang right here on 790 KABC.
When you have sports mixed with your pop culture, along with humor and celebrity interviews, your earbuds are enjoying The Rich Eisen Show. The NFL's Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions.
You got a good Parcells story, Dan Campbell?
Man, I got a million Parcells stories. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to go to Dallas and start. Bill tells me straight up, I'm just telling you right now, he goes, we really like you. Man, you fit here, but you're a backup. I was so heated. You know what? Yeah, I will come here and sign as a backup just to prove you wrong. It's like a mind trick.
Search for The Rich Eisen Show on YouTube YouTube, or wherever you listen.